Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Community Development and Transportation Committee meeting for February 24th, 2021. The purpose of the committee meetings are for the city departments to pass along information to the city council and discuss initiatives listed on the published agenda. By ordinance, the committee consists of the mayor, members of the city council, and the city administrator. The ordinance mandates the city administrator as chair of the committee meetings. This is a public meeting, but not a public hearing. Therefore, while the meeting is open to the public, we do not take public comments or questions during the committee meetings. Public comments or questions are received at the regular city council meetings held at 7 p.m. in the city council chambers or virtually on the second and fourth Monday of each month. The first item on the agenda today is the approval of the minutes for the Community Development and Transportation Committee meeting for January 27, 2021. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve the minutes by Councilmember Judy. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Tizer. Any further questions or discussion? All in favor, please raise your hands. And motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Hey, Gary.
Yes, sir.
I think you guys have one of the sets of lights off and it's a little bit dim in there.
Is that better?
Thank you. Thank
All better than normal light. That's why we kept it off. All right, moving on to community development. Item number 2, consideration of a text amendment to the Unified Development Code to section 12.7.5.B.4 flood damage protection, structures and buildings within the future conditions floodplain, manufactured homes. Ms. Murray.
Good morning. I'm Danelle Murray. I'm the city engineer, and I'm here to talk about the text amendment that we are proposing for the floodplain ordinance. The city of Roswell is a member of the Community Rating System program. That program rewards communities who regulate floodplains to a higher regulatory standard. And as part of that program, the city of Roswell residents who pay flood insurance get a 15% discount. So that program has a 5-year recertification cycle, and we're coming up on our recertification. And in preparation of that, the folks at ISO who regulate that program reviewed our ordinance and found a revision that they would like us to make. So I have let's share my screen and I can show you that revision. You see that? So this is the only revision that we're asking. It is specifically regarding manufactured homes. Those are homes that are on a chassis, can be moved from one location to another, and it is removing the ability to place those homes either new or substantially improved homes on piers. And that is the revision. I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Thanks, Danelle. Floor is open. What's the pleasure of the council? Councilmember Judy.
Real quick, there aren't many places in the city that this can be done anyway.
I don't believe so.
Correct. Thank you.
Any other questions from the council? Councilmember Judy.
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Councilmember Judy. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Tizer. Any further questions or discussion? All in favor, please raise your hands. And it passes unanimously. Thank you. Thanks, Danelle. Moving on to transportation. Item number 3, consideration to award a contract to Pavement Technology, Inc. The application of asphalt rejuvenation of several roads within the city. Mr. Del Ross.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer. Good morning, everyone. I will be sharing my screen. First item for transportation this morning is a contract for our rejuvenation. So this is slightly different than the typical resurfacing list that you've seen multiple times. I'll walk through this. This is a product we apply to roads. Think about it as sunscreen to preserve the life. It extends the life for which we need to ultimately come back and resurface again. This is a best practice nationwide. We have staff that have actually researched how effective this product is. There is one company in Georgia that is licensed to do this. We have used this product several times over the years. We typically spend approximately 5 to 10% of our typical resurfacing budget on rejuvenation. The map you see on the screen is our proposed list. With the exception of one segment, every road on this map has been resurfaced in the past 12 months or will be resurfaced this coming year. There is one segment, the eastern portion, southern eastern portion of the loop on Martin Road, that was resurfaced approximately 5 years ago, and that it's due for its next cycle, and that's why it's on this list. The contract amount is $185,475. We are recommending using our resurfacing account to pay this, and that concludes presentation. Open to questions.
Any questions from the council? Councilmember Hall?
Thank you, Gary. Just a quick question. You had mentioned that the rejuvenation is going to be on roads that are resurfaced this year as well, or is it just ones that were previous year?
Correct. So on that map, there is a mix. There are some roads that were resurfaced last year. There are a couple of roads. There is one in particular, Roxburgh, that is on this year's LMIG list. So it will be resurfaced using LMIG money, and then it will be rejuvenated immediately after.
Is that best practice to rejuvenate it right away?
As long as we're in that 12-month window from when the resurfacing happens, it's fine.
Okay, I was just wondering if there'd be an opportunity to get another street and then do that one in the next cycle to try and get more mileage out of the dollars.
I can speak with our construction manager about that. I don't think there's a concern either from the product or from staff about having them that quickly. It's something I can speak about, and if we make a change, we can address it in the council item.
Okay, yeah, my only point is it's getting resurfaced and it should be good for 12 months and then maybe rejuvenated at that 12-month and then use the money that you're gonna spread that rejuvenation money onto another road perhaps.
So just very quickly, if I can just add, good morning, council members. So we're talking to preserving. So the sooner we preserve the condition, you know, the longer it stays in that better condition. So we can still talk to staff, and if there's an opportunity to make a change, we'll do that and bring it to the council member, to the city council meeting.
Thank you.
Councilor Zapata?
Thank you. So following up the question from Councilmember Hall, what is the best practice for the window for rejuvenation? You know, after you resurface the whole road, you know, what is the window there to do the rejuvenation? You said 12 months, 24. So we'd like to know a bit more about it.
So generally, as we showed on the slide, it is recommended within the first 12-month window, and then again in successive 5-year increments. So in the map I showed you on the screen, a majority of those roads are within that 12-month window, and there is one segment of Martin Road that is at that 5-year mark that we are recommending doing another round of the rejuvenation.
Thank you.
Councilor Tizer?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilor Tizer. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Wilsey. Any further questions or discussion? All in favor, please raise your hands. And it passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to item number 4, consideration to modify the fiscal year 2021 road resurfacing list. Mr. Del Ross.
Thank you. Next item is the modification to the road list. This is an item you approved back in October for a local road list of approximately $500,000. What we're doing today is we're adding roads to that list to incorporate the $2 million that you approved at mid-year budget. I'm also going to be showing you a road list of what we're recommending for the $5 million GTIB loan, up to $5 million. We don't know what that amount will be. We also don't know whether we're going to be receiving it yet. We should be knowing, we should be hearing on that very soon, but I will show you a few maps here. First map, the roads you see in blue on the right side of the screen, the blue roads are what you approved in October. That is approximately $500,000 of resurfacing. The roads in red are what we are adding today. And the list you see on the left side of the screen is the total of the red and the blue roads. Second list, this is the up to $5 million list. I do not have a map for this due to the amount of roads on this list. We will be including this in our contract. We're showing this road list to you because we do not want to come back and show and have to modify our road list again based on if you get it this loan or not. So our intent is to include this list in the contract that we will be advertising here shortly. We will bring that contract to you in approximately 2 months with the total amount, and we will have heard on the GTIB loan status by then. The list you see on the screen is approximately $5 million that was developed based on PCI rating across the city. This is an alphabetized list, not a worst first from the top. Staff recommends modifying the road list to incorporate the approximately $2.5 million we currently have in citywide resurfacing. That concludes the presentation.
Any questions from the council? Councilmember Sizer.
Yeah, Mr. Del Ross, I assume that you have that $5 million list in another order that shows, you know, if we got $2.5 million, which roads are first and on down the list based on their PCI score?
That's correct. That's something we could provide if you'd like to see it. I don't have it in this presentation, and that's exactly how we would be handling that loan. For example, if we were given $2 million of the $5 million, we would start at the worst first from that $5 million list and go as far down as the $2 million will allow us.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the council? What is the pleasure of the council?
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Councilmember Sizer. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Judy. Any further questions or comments from the council? All in favor, please raise your hands. And it passes unanimously. Thank you. Thanks, Rob. Moving on to item number 5, discussion of the Old Alabama Road sidewalk feasibility. Mr. Ralph.
Sorry. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Palmer. So Rob, can you please share your screen? Slide number 13. Okay, thank you. So I'm gonna start with this one in just 1 second. So, okay, can you all see the sidewalk feasibility, Old Alabama Road slide? So this is where staff is looking for council's guidance on about half-a-mile stretch of a path. It has similar issues like the Magnolia Street sidewalk we discussed within the last year. Next. Looking at the sidewalk matrix based on the criteria you recently approved, project number 7 and 8 are next to each other along Old Alabama Road between Big Creek Park and Tyson Circle. That is just short of Wooten Road. There is a traffic signal there. So the project improves bicycle and pedestrian access for our residents to Big Creek Park and Northwood Elementary School. We're looking for your guidance because there is these projects, you know, they need external design help and they have impact. Next. So you can see the Big Creek Park on the screen and Old Alabama Road. So the city's recently adopted bike ped master plan calls for a 10-foot wide trail along this stretch. So the red and green stretches that you see are the 2 proposed projects next in line per the new sidewalk matrix. And the white lines that you see, those are existing narrow sidewalks. So just note the couple of very small white lines among the red line and the blue line in the end. So the blue line towards the right side of the screen is a 180 feet extension of the proposed trail to get us to the Wooten Road traffic signal. So the project, essentially, we are talking about, it's the red line, the green line, and the smaller blue line. Next slide, please. So the rough cost estimate for survey and design is about $100,000, and the construction cost for the full length is at about $600,000. So the scope would include the 2,600 feet long multi-use trail from the entrance of the Big Creek Park all the way to Tyson Circle. That's the red and the green lines, and then the additional 180 feet to take it to the Wooten Road traffic signal, which is access to the Northwood Elementary School as well. Next slide, please. And so to make it all happen, we need about a 500 feet long retaining wall, which will have an average height of about 4 feet and an estimated height of 6 feet at its highest point. And that retaining wall is going to be visible from the park, not from the road. So there is going to be impact to lots of pine trees, scrub trees, and bushes along the frontage of the Big Creek Park. Staff didn't see any specimen trees from a visual inspection. So if you choose to move forward with the project, we'll do a tree survey. And if there's a specimen tree, if we found any, we'll try and avoid the impact as much as possible. So just looking at the picture, so here's this one is looking towards Holcomb Bridge or Park entrance. And it looks pretty dense with trees and bushes. So the next picture is on the next slide. This is now looking away from the park entrance. Holcomb Bridge is on the back. So you can, if you can visualize just a 2 feet grass strip and a 10 feet path, that gives you an idea about the impact. So staff is looking for guidance before spending any money on the design work. And if you choose to move forward with the project, we'll bring a design contract for approval at a future mayor and council meeting. And if you want to skip this one, due to these impacts, we can move further down on the list on the sidewalk matrix. That's all I had on this one. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Councilmember Wilsey.
Thank you, Gary, and thank you, Mohammed. I think this satisfies one of the priorities to connecting sidewalks to parks and schools. And you did say that this is on the bike ped master plan?
Yes, as a trail, 10 feet trail.
Is there an opportunity to do a local neighborhood meeting or kind of check with some of the talk to some of the local neighborhoods and about this, just to get some more input?
Sure. We could, maybe we could do, initiate an online survey and reach out to some of the neighboring HOAs and definitely use help from our recreational and parks department, who they think we could reach out to, the park users. If there's any organized groups in there that are regular users, we can definitely do that. It just takes, time and some effort, but we could definitely do it if that's what the committee's suggestion is.
That's right, yeah, right. I mean, I think it checks a lot of boxes and seems like a good opportunity, but I would, now that you're looking at it, want specifically to go back to the neighborhood and make sure they're aware of what's going on and to try and get their support and comments.
Councilmember Hall.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Mohammed, and great questions. Councilmember Wilsey, be great to get some input from the groups in the neighborhoods. I was just at that park this weekend, and it is amazing the amount of traffic it gets. I mean, it was the parking was almost overflowing from the entire thing, and if everybody, if there was consensus, I think this is a fabulous sidewalk program to put in, as long as it's not too intrusive. Mohammed, will it continue? The plan would be to continue the sidewalk up towards Willow Springs. Is that part of on the plan eventually?
Well, Old Alabama is one of those streets, so yes, eventually, but that's long ways away. But that's how you make incremental improvements in the network. So this is a good one to start. It's right there by the park, and it connects to the school and several neighborhoods. And thinking about all those cars that were parked, if more people were able to walk to the park or bike to the park, then we won't have as many cars in the parking lot. So it just goes hand in hand.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Zapata.
Thank you. So, quick question. Do we have the capability to do the design in-house? We have the knowledge and expertise to do the design and save some taxpayers' money? Or is something that we do need to outsource? I understand the survey, but the design part?
So that's a good question. We do design work in-house all the time. We generally keep ourselves to smaller and not too complicated projects. But this one with a long retaining wall, that's a different level of expertise, and it just takes a lot of staff time, because staff also has a lot of other projects where we manage the consultants who are doing the other design work. So it's just a lot. We just look at what provides the best efficiency at staff level for the public, and that's how we make the decision on which projects do we keep for design in-house and which one we suggest to take outside and get external help. So this is one of the ones where we think it would be better if we went outside. Because most other sidewalks we have built from the sidewalk matrix, generally the design is done in-house. But this one has some complication to it because of that long retaining wall.
Okay, and my second question is, as a user of the park, I think it's a high improvement to the area. So, and I love, public input and neighborhood input, especially in rezoning and conditional use. But are you expecting any opposition to the improvement to the park system and the bike and pedestrian system? I understand, again, very important for rezoning and conditional uses to have the neighborhood meetings, and because definitely will have a negative impact on some of the neighborhood. But on this case, do you anticipate any opposition or negative impact on the neighborhoods in the area? Because I don't want you to take too long to go ahead and move with this project.
Yeah, so I feel, now that's my opinion, basically, that if there is a walk-in and biking opportunity close to a neighborhood that would connect the neighborhoods to a school and park, I think that would be a great thing. So in my mind, in my opinion, it's a no-brainer. But I've been surprised before, so maybe we could try and do a quick neighborhood survey. We'll think about it. Maybe we'll talk to Recs and Parks Department and see what their opinion is, and if we feel there's a need to do, how much of a public involvement on this one, we'll just see what we gotta do.
Because we all see that it's a big improvement to the area. So and we, you're in sync with the residents. You understand then the big improvement to the park system.
Agreed.
Mohammed, could you pop up that picture you showed of the actual photo?
This one?
Yes. So it looks like because of the way the trees are through there, probably people aren't able to walk down that side of the street at all. Looks pretty narrow.
It is tight.
Thank you.
In that picture, you don't have to bring it back up, but about how far back into the trees will you all be going to create the wall? And I mean, I think to Marie's point earlier, Councilmember Wilsey's point, as soon as you start tearing out trees there at Big Creek Park, people are, gonna say, what are y'all doing here? So just making sure we're not going back into the park further. We're making sure everybody knows what's going on there. I think that was more to the point of Marie than having a meeting. Obviously the public input and, believe me, I've heard many people that use the park and have my pulse on the neighborhood and the citizens, just as Councilmember Zapata said. But I think that was more to the point. How far back will you go? And then letting everybody know, maybe put some big signs out that say sidewalk connectivity thing might handle that.
So yeah, I think that's a good point. Maybe that's what we'll do. We'll make it like notification type of an arrangement where we just notify everybody we could think of in the area. And if we get any input, we can definitely review that. So we'll coordinate with Rex and Parks as well. And in addition to reaching out to neighborhoods, basically notifying them that this is happening. Into your question about, so we're talking 2 feet of a grass strip. That's a minimum width of a grass strip. We want pedestrians and bikers to feel comfortable and not be too close to the travel lanes. And then 10 feet of the path, and then just a couple more feet. There may be some temporary construction easement needed, but we try and be as respectful to nature and trees as possible. So we just try to disrupt the minimum just to build our project.
Right.
Councilor Hall.
Just a suggestion, and I don't know if this is practical. Could you take, like when surveyors take the bright pink tape and survey around an area, could you stake a big pink long plastic tape along the edge of where you would take trees down, where the construction would end?
Yeah, we could look into that. It's just so dense there, as we could see from the picture. We will see what we could do. Maybe we put something on both ends and just let people visualize, just stretch a line in their mind between 2 points, or if possible, we could stretch a ribbon through that. We will just see what we can do, but that's a good idea.
I think that might just be helpful, because when you look at pictures, it doesn't perhaps translate.
Yeah, just again, I think it's a very worthwhile project, connects the schools and the parks, but I do think everything we can do to generate awareness and communicate with the neighbors is a plus. So thank you.
Any other questions from the council? What's your pleasure?
It was just for discussion. Do you need anything else, Mohammed?
No, I think we're good. We got the guidance that we needed. Thank you.
Great.
Thanks, Mohammed. Moving on to item number 6, discussion of the State Route 92 at Woodstock Road intersection project. Mr. Rowe.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer. Rob, you got the slides. Thank you. So this is going to be a little confusing, and I'm sorry about that, but we have just a mix of 3 projects we need to talk here, and then we have a staff recommendation. So you please let us know what you think. So the intersection of Highway 92 and Woodstock Road. So to give you some background, the council approved funds in FY20 budget for the design of a northbound right turn lane on Woodstock to turn east onto Highway 92. That's the Bank of America corner. And then later, per staff recommendation, council also authorized funds for design of King Road extension. That's just north of this intersection. So King Road extension into the senior student parking lot at Roswell High School, because that intersection impacts but this overall operation at this intersection significantly because of the backups coming out of the Roswell High School. So the construction funding request for both projects remained unfunded in FY21. So design efforts were, underway, and then COVID happened. So we paused the design efforts because of the frozen funds during COVID, and later on the funds got unfrozen. So a few months ago, we concluded our conversations with Fulton County School regarding the new middle school on Woodstock Road that's being built. We were talking to them about improvements that they need to make on Woodstock Road to help the school traffic so it has less impact on the area residents and the general traveling public. And then another thing that happened was that at mid-year, you guys authorized $350,000 for construction, for right-of-way and construction of this Woodstock and 92 project. So it's a mix of a lot of things, but I think I got the sequence right, as I just mentioned. So here's a graphic that shows the proposed concept of the right turn lane in the Bank of America corner. So please make a note, the length of this suggested right turn lane, it originates at just north of the Bank of America driveway and turns onto eastbound Highway 92. So that's the length we were shown in the concept. And then overall graphic of the area, since I mentioned 3 different projects. So you see Roswell High School. So from Highway 92, we'd be extending an existing right turn lane that dead ends before it gets to the senior parking lot. So we'll extend that into the parking lot. That's the King Road extension project, and then the northbound right turn lane at Woodstock. That's what we are discussing today. And then you see the new Crabapple Middle School turn lane. So the school has 2 entrance points. For one, the southern entrance, the carpool entrance, we're able to create a left turn lane within the existing asphalt. So that's not a big deal, that's easy. At the northern entrance, which is their school buses, faculty, and parents entrance, visitors entrance, basically, there's not enough room in the pavement to create a left turn lane. So I'll talk a little bit more about that a little later. So the couple of problems here that we see. So for the proposed northbound right turn lane, theoretically, if you add a right turn lane, it should improve operation. It should help the traffic, waiting to turn right onto 92 while the through traffic is waiting on a red traffic signal. So, but here are a few things that became more obvious as staff worked on the design and had more internal conversations. So we know there's extensive northbound queue at this intersection due to backups extending from the Roswell High School operations on King Road. So we can only construct so much length of this right turn lane in question. The longer we make it, we just be doing more impact on utilities and the other side street driveways of the businesses along Woodstock Street. So our subject project, that Woodstock right turn lane project, if constructed as shown in the concept, it may face a situation, what we call lane starving, which means, the right turning traffic may not be able to get into this right turn lane to make their turn because of the long backups on the through movement. So because of that, the area residents and traveling public may not see the full benefit, the full intended benefit of this project at this point, if it's constructed. So, and we know that, the project we're doing on King Road is definitely gonna improve the operation overall, will help with the backups. We just don't know how much. So what we're thinking is we may need to reanalyze the need and scope of this right turn lane after the fact, after the King Road project is built. So again, like I said, if you can finish the King Road project construction and reanalyze the need and the scope of this right turn lane at a later time, that'd be good. And again, like I mentioned, we concluded our conversations with Fulton County regarding the new middle school. So our initial request to them during school's plan review meetings a couple years ago was for them to construct the left turn lane into their school to serve their school traffic. So that did not become a part of the school project, and their position is that Fulton County is not allowed by state law to spend their funds in public right-of-way. So our legal office, of course, we coordinate very closely with them. They now agree with that position. So it is up to the city if and when we want to construct that left turn lane. So staff's recommendation is that that is a much higher priority, because if there is no left turn lane, you have a school bus full of kids sitting in the through lane, blocking the through traffic. That's just that's a safety concern. That is an operational issue of, for the area residents, for the school kids. So that's why in our mind, that's a much higher priority than this right turn lane for now. So staff's opinion, again, it's a much higher priority. And again, like I said, we need to reanalyze the need for that Woodstock right turn lane. Not saying whether we need to build it, I'm just saying, how long that needs to be in future conditions, basically when the school traffic is settled down and the King Road project is finished. So slide 27, please. So if the committee, if the council is good with the staff recommendation, we're suggesting to reallocate the $350,000 that you just as part of mid-year assigned to Woodstock right turn lane for right-of-way construction. Our request is to move that to the new school entrance, the left turn lane. And please understand, this Woodstock right turn lane is also an important project. It's not as high a priority in staff's mind. So we are still listing it in the 5-year CIP. You're going to see that as we go through the budget project in FY25 is what we are putting this up for. So depending on your guidance today, we can either bring the reallocation of the funds and a design contract for that left turn lane into the school left turn lane to a future council meeting, or if your preference is to continue with this right turn lane project at Woodstock Road, we can just continue on the design work. We are at about 30% design. And please understand, this 30% design is not going to go wasted. Whenever we do this project in the future, we can just pick it up from that 30%, just re-verify some things if anything has changed in the field, and just take it on from that point. So that's all I had on the slides on this topic.
Any questions from the council? Councilmember Tizer.
Thank you, Gary. Couple of questions, Mohammed. It'll take me a few minutes of the floor here. But if you could answer the first one, what is the estimated cost of the turn lane into the middle school?
So it's going to need some moving the curb. And generally what we do is just we take, the right of way, or if we need any right of way from private property, we'll just do a similar symmetric, basically widening. It just depends on a lot of other things as well. So we, to have a good cost estimate, we need a survey done, so we know how much of existing condition is going to change, but it shouldn't be more than the 350, but we will have to reconfirm that.
So there's a left turn lane on the southernmost entrance to the property, but not one in the middle entrance where I guess the buses are supposed to go. That's what you're talking about, is that second entrance. If you were to do right-of-way acquisition, it looked to me as if you'd wind up destroying the sidewalk that they just put in over at the middle school side. So I thought that was worth note. And then my other question on this particular part of the project is there no way that they can reroute their bus traffic to use that southern entrance?
Oh, that's that's a big deal for the school, you know, how they operate, their internal operation. That's we actually very consistently for 2 years asked them that, hey, this is what you gotta do to not impact the Woodstock traffic operation for the area residents too much. Yeah, they don't mix their traffic, you know, the carpool traffic versus the school bus faculty visitors traffic. We can always ask, but I doubt it seriously. That's how the school has designed, you know, to have buses at a certain spot and carpool operation at a certain spot using different entrances.
Is it their plan to have a safety officer directing traffic in the morning to make that left turn?
Yeah, so we just like maybe 3 months ago, we had a meeting with them and where they agreed that till the time the city is going to construct this left turn lane, they're going to have officers at both entrances. You know, at the carpool entrance, they would have an officer anyway, but they agreed to, you know, provide an officer for this northern entrance as well till the time the city is able to construct the left turn lane.
Okay, so if I could, let's move north up Woodstock to the right turn lane project. You and I had a chance to discuss this over the last month. It seems to what I'm sort of grasping from your commentary is that when you do the improvements to King Road north of Woodstock, some of the congestion that's keeping people from making a right turn is going to leave the operation, and so and that's at this point you don't have a good estimate. So what you had originally planned was that you would complete the King Road projects north of Woodstock this summer, I believe, but you had not originally planned to complete the right turn lane until fiscal 2023, I guess.
Yeah, 20, I'd say 22 is when we were going to request the construction funding. And it's just, you know, because things change. This conversation with the school, we were really, really hoping that they would build a left turn lane for their school. It serves their school traffic 100%, but we lost that one, which is okay. So that just became a much higher priority in staff's mind. For the King Road project, that has continued. And for that one, actually, we hope to finish construction by the end of the year. We're about to finish design by the end of the year. We should be able to finish construction. So we'll be able to, you know, make field observations on the positive impact of that project on the operation of this right turning traffic here. So that's, you know, that's one reason to recommend that we need to wait and see how much of a right turn lane length we're going to need here in the future conditions. And I would actually let the school traffic settle down as well, you know.
So the difference in cost to the right turn lane part of the project, it's $350,000 today. If that right turn was shorter, does that save the taxpayers significant amounts of money by understanding the future traffic flow a little better?
Yeah, absolutely. If it's shorter, of course, it costs less money.
Do you have any idea of the magnitude of that?
We just don't know what we're going to need there in future conditions. So like, that's why I said it needs to be reanalyzed in future conditions.
Thank you.
Councilmember Zapata.
Thank you. So I understand that once you have heavy equipment and workers on the intersection, it's much better to work on an integral intersection improvement, no partial improvement. So, you know, once you move all this heavy equipment there, you have all these workers there, you have all the people working on the intersection, you might be saving money to have the whole integral intersection improve. So, so since we already have the design of both of them, I will support to go ahead and have an integral intersection improvement, no partial. So I think that my position is to move forward with both of them and get this resolved and do as long as possible the physical possible the right turn lane. So it's going to get used. It's going to get used, and it's going to be an improvement. So I will suggest to tackle the whole intersection at once.
Councilor Hall.
Thank you, Gary. Oh,
So can I try to answer? I'm sorry. Let me try and answer Councilmember Zapata's question. So it's two different projects, Councilmember Zapata, and they are the Woodstock right turn lane project design. Like I said, it's at like 30%. And then the King Road project design is at about 80%. We are already looking into the right of way for that. And the King Road project does not touch Highway 92, which means GDOT's right of way. The Woodstock right turn lane, it does. It touches Highway 92. So that means we need a permit from GDOT. And when GDOT permit is involved, all bets are off on the timeline of that project anyway. So it would be, we were not gonna recommend to have the same contractor build the two improvements at the same time. I can tell you this King Road and Roswell High School issues are decades old. We have heard so much about that, and this is a good improvement. I wouldn't suggest to slow that one down for this other project that may not be needed to be as extensive in future conditions, and where GDOT permits are involved. So it's just going to take longer for us to get ready for that Woodstock one anyway.
So actually, I'm not suggesting to slow down any project. No more projects. Slow down, no more projects. What I'm asking is to speed up some projects. So no slow down, but speed up the right turn. That is my position, and that is my view.
Councilor Hall.
thank you. Thank you. I just want to let you know that I'm steadfast in my position that we need to move forward with this project, the right turn project on 92 and the King Road project that were on the list. We fought very, very hard to get these into the budget and get it approved. It's a dangerous situation on that intersection. Cars are cutting through the Bank of America, through the Zaxby's, through those parking lots, speeding through, trying to avoid that right turn lane. I've seen cars going on the curb trying to get, if a car is blocking the right turn lane. I've seen kids and people almost get run over in the parking lot. I believe that the length of that right turn lane is going to be the same whether you re-looked at it or not, because that's going to be a busier street. And if we need to do additional projects down the street, we need to look at those in the next budget and perhaps take some funds from travel or wherever we need to take funds from to fund those other projects. So I am feel very strongly, along with a lot of neighbors and neighborhood people and schools around there, that this needs to get done.
Mayor.
I would like to say that I frequent this intersection very often, more often than I want to admit. And I clearly recognize the issues that we're having. The city has been talking with the high school for over 3 years on how to try to combat this problem. I fully agree that the King Road project needs to move forward. Councilmember Hall, you stated that you wish to fund a capital project with M&O operating expenses. That is not, it's not appropriate. It's not the way that we budget in this city. So I would, and I've heard a lot of talk about making decisions in a vacuum. And what I think that we really need to do here is to look at all of our transportation projects, our capital projects, and then determine and talk with staff to determine where we get the most bang for our buck and where we can help the most citizens. So just because this project is in my neck of the woods, it does not mean that it's a priority project over another transportation project in a different part of the city. So I think that we need to look at those. I don't think I agree with Mr. Ralph that we should not slow down the King Road project. The right turn on Woodstock has never been a priority for staff. And frankly, it is not one of my priorities. And I sit in that intersection on a daily basis. So I would suggest that we talk about that during the budget process and look at all of the capital projects that we've got in play. And we then decide what we're going to prioritize and what we're not going to prioritize. And it's not just going to be based on a council member's location or their home, where they frequent in the city.
Councilmember Zapata.
So again, you know, nobody's saying to slow down, everybody's saying to speed up transportation projects. And I support both projects. And actually I live in East Roswell. I don't even live nearby. So, but I understand, I don't need to live there to understand the needs of these two projects to be a speed up, not slow down.
Councilmember Tizer.
Yeah, so we can discuss speed up and slow down for a long time. But I think the order of these projects is kind of important. It seems like these are three projects that, because of all the schools, because of the traffic changes that are going on, probably need to be done. But it's hard for me to, let me say it this way. I don't think that anything we're doing today will slow down the design work for the right turn lane or slow down the project on King Road. But I would really like to see whether we have the ability to move projects around on the capital side in order to also get the left turn lane for the middle school accomplished. When that school opens, that's going to immediately begin to cause the issues that we're concerned about. And so I think it's important, Director Ralph, that we get an estimate of that project and your conclusion as to how we fit it into either this year or next year's budget numbers. We may have capital money that's available this year that we're not yet aware of. And so it's possible that all three things could be done. So rather than taking the entire morning and arguing about speeding up and slowing down, if you could give us an idea of whether the left turn lane project could be in this year, the 21 budget potentially, or the upcoming 22 budget, I think that would be helpful for us to make a complete decision on this. For me at this time, it's really hard to say I prefer one over the other when it seems like eventually all three are needed. And so if you could put that into context for us, let us know if it's possible to do all three, come back and let us know that. I think that would help us make a data-driven decision on these three things, and I think really help that corridor that's changing so dramatically with the opening of that middle school, all the other schools on the street.
Mohammed, go ahead if you have a response.
Sure, thank you, Gary. So yes, we actually already have a budget request in process for that left turn lane at the middle school, since now that is our responsibility. And one thing we generally don't talk about is so yes, we want to speed up all transportation projects and all transportation initiatives, but that takes resources, that takes staff time. So when we bring forward a recommendation to you, please understand we have considered all of that. Of course, public safety is at top of the list. Residents' needs are at the top of the list. Council priorities, we try and put them at the top of the list as well. But then when we do all that, we're still responsible to deliver. Okay, so when we bring in with a recommendation like that, we're just thinking a lot of things, and you just tell us, your priorities, and then maybe we'll go back and reanalyze. And then the point is, this is just a staff recommendation. If the committee wants to move in a different direction, that is totally okay. I just felt the responsibility to notify you that the situation being created at the middle school and no left turn, and the school starts this year in August. So that is not a very good situation. So the sooner we fix it, the better.
Councilmember Judy.
Thank you, Gary. To Mohammed and Councilmember Tiser's points, I think the key here is the not when, not if, it's in what way these are built time-wise. And, hey, if you could build them all at once, great. But, obviously, based upon Mohammed's statements, there are still things that one thing will do to the other thing that will make decisions in which could save hundreds of thousands of dollars or change that design altogether. So when you're talking to a traffic engineer who knows traffic, they tell us, hey, you need to do this first so we can see what happens there. And then, of course, looking at the left turn lane into Crabapple, that's going to be an issue right away. So to that point, I would love to know the cost of the left turn lane into Crabapple and look at this further. But again, here we are discounting what staff is telling us needs to be done to get the projects best. And, that's a problem here. I mean, again, I'm not a traffic engineer, and I don't think anybody on this council is a traffic engineer. And they're sitting here telling us what we need to do. So I don't know what else to do other than say, hey, look, can you come back and let's go down through the list, figure out what should be done. But obviously, all these projects are very important.
Councilmember Hall.
Thank you, Gary. As part of returning information to us on these capital project and costs, could you also include other capital projects that have been approved, that are funded, that are on the shelf or perhaps not active at the time? And I think there may be some that we had discussed previously. One of them being an extension, I forget which extension, Sun Valley extension, that perhaps is funded. If those funds would be available to reallocate to some of these other more pressing projects.
We could, but please understand, you receive a quarterly report from the budget office. And I will tell you this Woodstock and 92 project has been listed on that like 2 or 3 reports. So 6 to 9 months, it's been listed. So what's triggering this item today and this discussion is really the mid-year funds that got allocated to a project for construction, where we were telling you, the council, in the last 2-3 quarterly budget reports that it's on a pause due to this reason. So, that's the only reason why we are having this conversation. Money was allocated for right-of-way and construction in mid-year, where we were not working on the design. So that just created, this confusion and then these conversations with the Fulton County School. So the King Road project is doing great. It's moving on a much faster pace. So we're moving forward with that. This Woodstock, we are, very in initial stages of the design, 30% to be exact. So it's going to need some time. We don't need any construction money, at least not for now. So that's all of that is triggering this conversation. So that's all I was going to say.
Councilmember Tiser.
Yeah, so I'd say to my fellow council members, at this point, it's not clear to me that we have to reallocate anything, which is why I'd like to see where we are with capital funding, whether there's additional money that we haven't allocated, whether there's some if there's going to be an overage in operating funds that would then for the following year be moved to capital. That might be interesting. So, before I go taking things off a list, I'd like to see if there's potential to do everything. And then we can discuss what order we do them in. It does seem like the entranceways to both schools might be the most important. But again, if we can really fix the entire road, that'd be great. But for now, I think my guidance from my standpoint, Mohammed, is for you to bring back an idea of that and to check with Director Luckett to see, kind of where we are with capital funding and can it, how can we do, the group of projects. Again, what order you do them in is something we have to discuss at a later time once we understand the traffic flow a little better.
Councilmember Zapata.
Thank you. So, for the record, my position today regarding this item number 6 of committee meeting is to finish immediately the 20% remaining of King Road and finish immediately the 70% remaining of the design of Woodstock and Highway 92. So that will be for the record, my recommendation, my position today. I don't want to hear in a few months, oh, you told us that we shouldn't be moving forward with the design, the 70% remaining of the design. No, we want to get it as soon as possible, immediately, the 70% left of the design of Woodstock Road. So that is my position and my recommendation today on regarding item number 6 of today's committee agenda.
Mohammed, you need anything else?
Yeah, I think we're good. We'll bring it back to a future committee meeting after looking into some more details. But yes, King Road project would continue to move forward. We'll, if you want to hear more technicalities, I'll bring you more technicalities at the future committee meeting about the Woodstock. There is some severe utility conflicts there as well. If you want to get into those side of technicalities, we can definitely do that at a future committee meeting in the near future. For the middle school, there is already a budget request. We turned it in. That will get sorted out, I guess, as part of the budget process. So I think I'm good, Gary.
Any questions or comments from the council before we move on? Moving on to item number 7, discussion of T-SPLOST public outreach plan. Mr. Ralph.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer. Rob, can you please share the screen? I'm going to be on slide number 29. Okay. So we want to talk about the public outreach plan and the project selection. So this is going to be a big one. So please hear me out on this one. I'm going to try and go as quick as possible. So we need your guidance on the public, outreach plan and the project selection for the T-SPLOST renewal. So just some quick background for the residents who may be listening and to refresh all of our memories, some quick background. So with the support from majority of the cities, Fulton County is working to put the T-SPLOST renewal on November 2021 ballot for a public referendum. The first 5-year T-SPLOST, which we are in the 4th year, it was a 0.75 cent sales tax, and it was voted for by the Fulton County residents in November 2016. So back then we went through a comprehensive and robust community outreach and public education campaign to receive public input and then keep them informed through the process. So for this first 5-year T-SPLOST, the estimated revenue for Roswell based on population is about $79 to $84 million over 5 years. So that's That's a big amount and helps us a lot on delivering the transportation needs in the city. So next slide, number 31. So the 2016 public outreach effort was heavy, on in-person presentations that staff delivered to various community and civic groups, as well as the HOA meetings. In addition to the regular T-Splost meetings that we did, we also shared physical copies of material at these meetings and then in public areas at the city and some county facilities. So due to the pandemic, we'll be all virtual with the public outreach efforts, at least till the summertime to protect the health of our residents and staff. And if things turn around for better, which I hope they do, we'll definitely consider an in-person outreach effort after summer before the referendum. So you had a 4-page document in your packet on the public outreach plan. And these slides, they were also shared with you a couple days ago, so I'm not gonna go in much detail. Unless you have questions or suggestions, please stop me, but I'm gonna try and go quick on some of the other slides, but I still wanted to show these slides on the screen for the record. So slide 32. So, in these upcoming virtual meetings with the residents, we'll share the status of the current T-Splost projects because public would wanna know, and we would wanna encourage them to stay involved and provide input going forward as we prepare for the T-Splost renewal. Next slide. So we are on a very strict timeline based on when the IGA between Fulton County and all 14 cities must be executed, and for the county to get everything ready for the referendum in November. So these next 4 slides show what our plan is for the next few months, and we have some very specific approvals we must get each month to get us ready with the project list and sign the IGA with the county. So in March, next month, we must get resident suggestions on any projects they want to see and give feedback to on staff suggested projects for the T-Splost project list. So want to hear public suggestion, resident suggestion, and their comment on staff suggested projects. And of course, if the council wants to add any, obviously. So for that purpose, city's community relations team will set up an online survey from March 1st to March 8th to receive residents' input and suggestions. And then at March Transportation Committee meeting, we will need your approval on a financially unconstrained project list to begin the process. So you will see all the suggestions from the residents and staff at that meeting before you approve at the next month's committee meeting. So beyond March committee meeting, we're not going to be able to add any projects because by then staff will need to start working on the concepts and cost estimates for the project suggestions immediately after the committee meeting. And going forward, with council's direction beyond March, we'll only be able to delete projects from a big master list to eventually get to a financially constrained list based on the projected revenue, and that would become part of the IGA during summertime. So next slide, number 34. At the April Transportation Committee meeting, we'll need to have a draft of our financially constrained project list. And again, we will not be able to add projects to that list anymore. Next, at May Transportation Committee meeting, we'll need an approval of financially constrained project list along with the cost estimates and scope to forward to June 14 City Council meeting, because we want our list, to be, complement the projected revenue is where we need to get to. So next slide, at June 14th Mayor and Council meeting, City should approve the T-Splost project list with the costs and scope, rough scope. And at the June Transportation Committee meeting, we hope to bring the Fulton County IGA with all cities for approval, contingent upon us receiving it in time from the county. The project lists from all cities are supposed to be part of that IGA, so those would be the final lists. And then at one of the July Mayor and Council meetings, you will have the opportunity to formally approve the IGA with the Fulton County and all the other cities. So next slide, and in August, September, October timeframe, so we'll be focused on educating the residents on the approved project list. So, and of course, any questions they have on the referendum itself. So next slide, here's a language of the Senate Bill 369 that enabled the county to go for a referendum. So it mentions roads, bridges, transit type of projects along with the infrastructure that goes with them. So next slide. So that was the public involvement piece. Now, if I want to get into the project eligibility and project selection part, if you want to provide any input, you can do that now on the public involvement piece, or we could talk about that at the end of the topic. So on the project eligibility and selection, I have the list of the projects that are eligible in the coming slides, but for eligibility wise, we are talking about the traditional projects with the transportation purpose, roads, bridges, intersections, bike ped projects, and public transit, and lighting, landscaping, stormwater upgrades, land acquisition, utility relocation, and other secondary elements that are embedded within a transportation project. They are okay as well. Maintenance of existing transportation facilities, that is also eligible, and staffing, internal and external, required to deliver that program, that is also eligible. And what's not eligible is, projects with a recreational purpose and standalone lighting, landscaping, stormwater projects, and then any land acquisition for purposes that are not for transportation improvements. So next slide. So we'll show you multiple lists of projects now. But before we look at that, here is where the staff suggestions came from. I want to make sure you understood that. So out of the projects that are coming out of the approved and adapted plans, such as the Transportation Master Plan, the Bike Ped Master Plan, the North Fulton Comprehensive Transportation Plans, and then from any special studies plans, committee recommendations, such as the East Roswell Economic Action Committee recommendations, any residence requests we have received, in the past, and staff's knowledge of the needs in the city. So this is where the projects you are going to see in a couple of minutes are coming from. And then of course, going forward, we'll add any requests that we get from the residents and city council. That needs to happen in the next couple of weeks, actually. And again, we're not claiming that this is an all-inclusive list, because we have so many needs in the public right of way. This is, just a glimpse of that, but this is a lot. We're going to need several T-Plus renewals to get this all done. But anyways, here's how it goes. So talking about these are just draft, suggested projects. So with the bike ped focus, these are the projects we've got on the list. So you see Riverside, you see Pine Grove corridors, and some along Holcomb Bridge. It's listing the underpass between City Hall and the Canton Street area. It shows the Ped Bridge idea out of the East Roswell Economic Action Committee recommendations, and some others. I'm not going to read all of them. But again, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. So next slide 42, is the some potential intersection improvements. Again, you will see intersections on Riverside, Pine Grove, Old Alabama Road, and several others that need some help. Next slide, here are some new alignment, capacity and operational improvement type projects that are needed. And there's nothing on this slide that you shouldn't be familiar with. Again, but let me know if you have any questions. So next slide. So we also have some bridges. You see 3 listed here. You know, they have a low sufficiency rating, so they need to be replaced. And we have some worse bridges than the ones shown here, but they are part of some other projects, like Historic Gateway Project has got the absolute worst bridge in the city is going to get replaced as part of the Historic Gateway Project. Another one gets taken care of as part of the current T-Splosh Big Creek Parkway project. So, and, you know, maintenance programs, like I mentioned, like resurfacing, you know, they are also eligible. So staff is not recommending to use T-Splosh money for resurfacing, again, because as you see, you know, we have so many needs in the city in the public right of way. And you know, it's also limited time funding revenue. So the routine maintenance type of items, in staff's opinion, you know, should be, you know, from the local yearly funds, not necessarily a special funding opportunity like T-Splosh. But there's other agencies who do use T-Splosh funds for maintenance as well, but that's really up to you guys. But staff is not recommending that. Next slide. So some important things to keep in mind. So we will have projects, you know, on the final list for design right away and construction phases without, you know, concepts vetted by the residents or approved by the city council. So what that means is staff will have to provide broad scopes in the language of the T-Splosh projects and budgets with high contingencies to allow for future residents' input and council decisions to be accommodated. You know, just as an example, for a complete street, for a corridor improvement, whether residents or council, they want trails on both sides, whether they want sidewalk one side, trail on the other side. On some, you know, restricted corridors like Grimes Bridge, you can't have, you know, these facilities on both sides. So we just don't know what the residents are going to want to see, you know, in some of these projects. That's why we're going to keep the scope broad and cost with the high contingency to accommodate the residents and council's, you know, priorities later on in the process. So we'll be allocating a small percent of the revenue for T-Splosh program management, you know, to effectively and efficiently deliver the program. And that's what we're doing for the current T-Splosh as well, and obviously with council approval. And then we'll also be considering this time around some additional in-house engineering or construction inspection support that may be needed to deliver the program. You know, additional full-time positions are eligible through T-Splosh funds. So it takes, you know, a lot of work to deliver, you know, in the most efficient way, you know, in the most effective manner. So any resources that staff thinks we need, we'll bring them forward to you for your approval. So I have one more slide that is indirectly related, but it's a little complicated, but I could take questions on the presentation up to this point.
Any questions for Councilmember Hall?
Thank you, Mohammed. Great overview. Just a couple of questions. The existing T-Splosh, I was just wondering, what was the total dollar value that Roswell got from the existing one? And do we have an idea, is there a potential total dollar value of this next one?
So yeah, that was the amount I think shown on one of the slides. It's still, we are at the beginning of year, we are at the end of the fourth year of collection. So we got 14 more months, and we are projecting the total in the past 5 years is going to be 79 to 84 million dollars. So that's based on projections. And then for the future 5 years of revenue, we have not received those projected amounts from the county yet. But you can imagine they'll be about around the same number, since we're talking about the same 3/4 of a penny sales tax. And so it'd be around that probably.
Okay, thank you.
$80 million over 5 years.
Councilmember Zapata.
Thank you. So yeah, we're thinking that during this public outreach of the incoming referendum, will be a great opportunity to provide status update on all the projects included on the previous ongoing TS plot. I think it will be a great opportunity to provide, since we're going to do public outreach for the future, will be great, fantastic to provide the update of the ongoing TS plot projects. I'm just saying not to lose the opportunity.
Yeah, that's listed in the plan and on the slides. I thought I said it, but anyways, yes, definitely, that's a good point, Councilmember Zapata. We'll make sure to give public status on all the T-SPLOST 1 projects.
Councilmember Hall.
Thank you. And just a clarifying thing, and perhaps you addressed it, is the next 3 weeks the only time that the public can basically put in their suggestions, because you need to have all the suggestions by the next meeting, which would be March 24th?
Yeah, unfortunately, the first week of March is when we are going to do that public survey to receive resident suggestions on the projects. And the point is, beyond that, we are so short on times, and it's going to take a lot of work, because as you can tell, we're going to have a lot of projects on the initial list, and to, you know, provide more information, prepare more information for residents and city council to make the final decision, we need to do a lot of work to prepare scopes, you know, and then the cost estimates for that. So that takes time. So yes, while we'll be reaching out to the public, you know, for many months to come before till the referendum time, to get their ideas on projects, is actually, we are very limited on time. So yes, if they can, I'd be happy to take emails starting like today, but the public survey is the first week of March.
So yeah, so that's my point. We have to meet the people. We have to go out and meet the people, as we've discussed, where they are. And we're going to have to really work hard to get information out to them that they need to get this by the first week of March to us.
Yeah, so so obviously, you know, Julie Breckbill and her team, they are on it already. You know, when we realize that it's gonna really happen, you know, they've been on it very, you know, with big dedication. So I think we're gonna do a great job on that. If you have any suggestions beyond the 4-page document from your packet, that's our plan. But if you have any suggestions, please, this is the best time to you know, share your suggestions with us.
My suggestion.
I would like to interject. I just want to make it clear. I believe Mohammed said this, but this timeline was dictated by Fulton County. We did not impose this timeline on ourselves. And I would encourage all council members. Last evening, I encouraged one of our large subdivisions to get very active and engaged in this process. I would encourage you all to do that as well. But we will have full force of the city and our community relations department behind this. And like I said, I apologize for the short timeline, but the city of Roswell did not have any input on that. It was determined that Fulton County wanted to go ahead with this for the November election.
Here's the good news. Many of the projects that are on the list are things that we've either already approved, gone through lots of public opinion on things like Bike Ped Master Plan. And so I think that's good news. I think our sidewalk list that has somewhere between 40 and 80 years worth of projects on it, you know, that you've included much of that with Bike Ped. You know, a lot of the things that are on your list are things that have been vetted through the public, so they'll be aware of a lot of those items, and this then becomes a funding mechanism to get it done. There aren't many other ways that we can raise this amount of money to do these kind of big projects, and so I think it's really important that the outreach is real strong here, because numbers like $80 and $90 million to do these kind of projects, there aren't a lot of other ways that a city like Roswell can raise that kind of money. So again, there's good news in your list, and I think that's going to help residents and businesses make decisions and help us make the right decisions on what to include.
Councilmember Wilsey.
Yes, thank you, Gary, and thank you, Matt. I think you're right. There's a lot of ideas and opportunities out there, and some plans that we have, and some studies and activities. Particularly, thank you, Mohammed, for mentioning the East Roswell Economic Action Committee. I think there are a lot of great ideas in there for improving Holcomb Bridge Road and doing some creative placemaking for some of the neighborhood nodes over on this side of town. So I would appreciate, seeing some of those on the list and getting some additional input. I also think one of the biggest things that we can do as council members is to help get the word out about this survey over the next couple of weeks, and really talk it up to your neighborhoods and to friends and folks, and just really help with outreach and be an ambassador for this. So I would challenge you all to do everything you can to talk it up and get some input from your folks. Thanks.
Mayor Henry.
Mr. Ralph, would you please go over again what can be covered in a T-SPLOST? I was concerned because Councilmember Wilsey just mentioned placemaking, and placemaking is not an option for funding in a T-SPLOST project.
Yeah, so we had that list of eligibility. Yeah, so a standalone, I'm on the second to last bullet. So standalone lighting, landscaping, or stormwater projects are unfortunately not eligible. But if they're part of a transmission project, then for sure. But just one thing that goes without saying is that if a lot of transportation needs are being funded by T-SPLOST, that means it spares a lot of other general fund local money to do other things that we want to do. So I just wanted to put that out there. So there is options.
Councilmember Wilsey.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. I mean, I think that lighting, landscaping, sidewalks, and improving roads are a big part of improving neighborhoods. So that was my intention. And I do think that's something that can be considered as part of T-SPLOST. Thank you.
Mohammed, you have what you need?
Yeah, so yes, thank you so much for the guidance. And so I have this one last slide. Rob, can you please share that one, the next one? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, so I hope this is not too complicated. So, I shared the Senate bill language earlier. So the transit projects are eligible with the T-SPLOST funds. In our current T-SPLOST program, we did not have any transit projects on the list, but they are eligible, okay? And then when recently, the City Council supported the November referendum for T-SPLOST renewal, you also showed a very strong support for transit, but as a separate effort, okay? So I just wanted to make sure that you knew that there is, options there. So we talking to Marta, we learned within the last week or so that without any additional transit funding through a referendum, Marta is still considering plans to operate a BRT system along Georgia 400 with just 2 stops, Windward and North Springs. When the 400 express lanes open to traffic, what they could do is just run the normal MARTA buses, not those big fancy buses, but they'll only have the southernmost and the northernmost station. So that's just like a BRT system, in operation in the express lanes with just the normal MARTA buses. And they have an existing route that runs, that goes along 400. They could just run that route in the express lanes and call it BRT. So what they are saying is, additional stops along 400 could also be advanced, to be in operation at the beginning of the express lane opening, such as Holcomb Bridge, as separate projects with separate funding and schedule. So that means, construction of a bus station within the future Holcomb Bridge interchange that is being accommodated by the GDOT's express lanes project is a possibility. So, but nothing is confirmed yet at MARTA. They're just very initial consideration, talking ideas. But we heard it, so I wanted to make sure you knew. So, staff is recommending a work session in early March. March 8th could be the date we could look at. I have not requested it from the mayor's office yet. So where MARTA actually could suggest funding options for transit for Roswell, if you are interested at this point. And just to, take it at a different level, you could answer this question today, whether you want to have a transit project on the project list that you are gonna approve for the T-Splost, to build that station, or if the city wants to spend some other money, some other funding options, that is what MARTA could help us understand. We had Ryan Luckett, our finance director, attend one of the meetings last week with us. So I'm sure he understood those funding opportunities, but MARTA is willing to come to a work session to explain all these to you. So, and then, again, the city could actually think beyond just a bus station at the future Holcomb Bridge interchange. MARTA has some other ideas about our northwest quadrant as well. You could hear those ideas from them at this work session. Or you could just wait for the city's comp plan recommendation to come, which should include something about the northwest quadrant. So it could be handled several different ways. So I guess the questions, if you could just guide us on whether you'd be open to have some kind of a transit funding in the T-Splost effort coming up and make it a project on the project list, and or whether you want to hear from MARTA in the next couple of weeks on other funding options to make the station happen, or their ideas on the northwest quadrant. That could be done now, or you could say you want to hear from MARTA after our comp plan comes out with some kind of a recommendation on the northwest quadrant. So that's it on the whole T-Splost topic. On the slides.
Thanks, Mohammed. Anything else?
No, I think I'm good. The question whether the council would want to hear or have a work session from MARTA in the next couple of weeks. If you could just hear that.
Councilor Judy.
So I definitely would like to hear what MARTA has to say. I think it's kind of disappointing that they said they've indicated North Springs and Windward, and just completely skipping over us when we had made it clear that we wanted to look at the BRT at Holcomb Bridge. I think getting the input of the citizens over the next 3 weeks is probably paramount. And then if the mayor would call a work session or however you all see fit to have MARTA in to explain, but I don't want to miss the bus, no pun intended, on the opportunity and then it be in our lap to fully fund this when we could hopefully get some guidance on how to possibly make this happen, not at the full expense of Roswell, since MARTA is considering putting stuff in other areas.
So can I just please clarify one thing? So MARTA, what they are doing, this is just a desperate measure in a desperate situation. So with no money, no additional money, they're just going to use existing facilities at the North Springs and Windward and use existing buses and call it a bus rapid transit operation because they could run in the express lanes. That's it. There's no additional money involved. They're not investing any money in Sandy Springs or Alpharetta. I'm sure they'd love to do that in Roswell as well, but it's just that we don't have a station and we don't even have the future interchange yet. So it would become, they would want to definitely work with us in the future to make it a reality.
And let me jump in here real quickly. And I agree that I would love to have MARTA come and talk with us. I think it will be very eye-opening. But I also want to remind everyone that we are and have been funding MARTA for years, millions and millions and millions of dollars. And right now we don't even have bus service in the city of Roswell. So when we talk about taking local dollars on a T-SPLOS and giving that to MARTA, I'll be honest with you, I'm not confident that they will put that money to good use or use it in the city of Roswell. So I just want to caution everybody and remind you that we are funding MARTA right now, and it's a hefty chunk of change, and we're not getting service from MARTA. So I think I would like to guide the direction or the discussion in that direction from them to learn why they don't see the merit in putting a bus rapid transit stop on the busiest east-west connector in the state of Georgia. It's insanity to me, but I think we should hear from MARTA. But I just did want to remind everyone that we are paying dearly into MARTA and we're not getting anything out of MARTA.
So yeah, that's a good point, Mayor. So Gary, I think I'm good.
Okay. We have a hard stop in 6 minutes, so we've got Mohammed, can item number 8 be pushed? You guys gonna do that today?
We don't have to do it today.
All right, let's push that. Ryan, are you on? There he is. You want to go ahead and roll through yours? So we'll move on to item number 9, consideration for the mayor and or city administrator to sign a custody agreement with U.S. Bank N.A. to provide custody services for the City of Roswell's investment program. We'll push number 8 to the next agenda or next transportation committee. Go ahead, Ryan.
Thank you, Gary. Good morning, Mayor and Council. This is another item related to our investment program. We have our investment advisors, PFM Asset Management, with us this morning. But the purpose of this item, as you might remember, we moved to PFM Asset Management a couple months ago. And as part of their review of our investment program, PFM has recommended that the city shift from a basic safekeeping arrangement, so this is the bank that holds our investment securities, to employing a third-party custodian to hold all the city's investment securities. Currently, our investment securities are held and services are provided through Wells Fargo. One of the biggest and most important aspects of moving to an independent third-party custodian is that securities are held in the city's name for its sole benefit and are legally separate from the bank or from the financial institution's assets. This is also a best practice recommended by the Government Finance Officers Association. So through our investment advisors, we've solicited quotes for the custody services from 5 financial institutions. 3 responses were received, and U.S. Bank provided the lowest cost proposal at an estimated annual cost of $5,000. And we have funding for this as part of our budget that we use to pay for banking fees and credit card fees and things such as that. So we wanted to bring this to you today for your consideration on moving forward with shifting to from a basic safekeeping arrangement for our investments to a third-party custodial agreement. And as I mentioned, Scott Stitcher from PFM Asset Management is here, and we'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
Also have any questions? What are you looking for, Ryan? Next agenda?
Yes, please.
What's the pleasure of the council? Councilor Tizer?
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Councilor Tizer. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Wilsey. Any further questions or comments from the council? All in favor, please raise your hands. And it passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that all you need to run? You good? Okay, we got to flip over our system to get ready for the 10 o'clock meeting. So what I'd like to propose is that we defer the other items to the next appropriate committee agenda, if that's okay with the council. Councilor Hall.
And Gary, if possible, I'd like, if the council would be so inclined, I'd like to meet with Councilmember Hall. We had a brief discussion about item number 10. If we could meet over the next few weeks, Councilmember Hall, I think we could get that item into a good shape. So if everybody be agreeable to that, I think that's how we could handle that one.
I'm agreeable to that. However, I would like to bring this back to the next committee meeting and not the next transportation or the next committee meeting, which I think would be in 2 weeks, which would be the finance committee meeting. Is that correct?
That's the next committee meeting. I don't know offhand when it is. So that sounds about right.
If everybody be agreeable to that, because this has already been pushed back a few times, and I think there's just one minor change that we need to make before we can move it along.
Councilmember Wilsey?
Yes, I would agree with that. And I would also ask if it would be possible to have my items put on that agenda as well.
Yeah, we'll continue with the other items on the next agenda.
Okay.
I mean, with the length of the agenda, obviously we're getting into some time constraints, but we'll continue to put them on there. So before we adjourn, any other issues on the other items? Okay, we are adjourned. We'll see you in 15.